What's up, comic and pop culture fans? This is James with Minhunter Comics, and I wanted to give you a series of recommendations. From the bottom of my heart, these are comics that I actually do think are perfect. I don't throw that out there too lightly. These are solid recommendations of stuff that really pushes the bar in terms of emotional response or just a connection to comics that makes you remember why you love the medium. Drop in the comments down below your favorite comic story of all time, and I'm actually going to give you an award-winning issue of Green Lantern 85, the classic Speedy Becomes a Drug Addict issue, to one of you just for commenting down there, so make sure you're subscribed. Stay tuned to the end of the video. I'm going to give you 5 single issues that I think are perfect. We're going to start it off with Spider-Man Blue, and you are a Tim Sale fan or you are not. Doesn't really matter, though. The story carries this one here. Beautiful artwork, in my opinion, as well. And it's the aftermath of Gwen Stacy. A very, very sad issue. And you've got Peter very retrospective about it, and he's constantly doing these voicemail messages on a cassette recording to her. And the whole issue, it's this beautiful recap of his friendship turned to relationship with Gwen Stacy. And you're left with this feeling of such loss. It's really almost even heavier than the initial moment of her death, which is crazy for how much later this issue came out after, of course, the death of Gwen Stacy. But the defining moment is, of course, in the end where MJ catches him doing the voice recording to Gwen. And in just a moment of sheer understanding, she throws all jealousy, whatever, behind, and she just says, I miss her too. Tell her hi for me. Bro, that is just, comic books at their best. Also, understanding characters at their best. I do feel like that is such a mature Peter and MJ thing. And God, I love this issue, but it might make you cry. Next is going to be Y the Last Man, and this one's definitely going to make you cry. So Y the Last Man is actually perfect from beginning to end, and there's a number of issues there, so that's not the easiest thing to achieve, but there's some on this list that are going to be even longer than Y the Last Man. This is great. It's a possible future in which there's really only one guy, and his pet monkey, of course. So it could have gone a bunch of ways, but it's about repopulating the world and just what would happen in this what-if scenario of life. But it's the ending. Oh my God, I can't say it. I can't say what happens. For those of you that wanted to know if there's ever been a page or 2 pages in comic books that can ever rip your heart out of your chest, I do think you're going to find it within the final pages of Y the Last Man, I gotta say. You know, there's probably only 5 or 10 comics out there that have ever made me actually shed a tear. This one may have made me ugly cry. So it's worth it for that alone, and it's just a testament to how good the writing and the characters were. Next up is going to be Blackest Night, and this might be my only mainstream entry on the list that's like a big event. Do you know how hard it is to get a big, massive event spanning over multiple titles with a bunch of tie-ins to be what I would consider to be perfect? In my eyes, it's essentially only happened once. There's lots of great arcs that I love, like Civil War, Infinite Crisis, but I think this one's a 10 out of 10. Beautiful art throughout, that's amazing, but also it was constantly redefining the Green Lantern mythos. It was so exciting, and even though it's been almost 20 years or whatever since that book came out, it still feels like it's pushing DC's bar ahead, which is pretty crazy because I've read it several times through. There should be no surprises at this point, and yet it still surprises me. I love where they went with it. There's still nothing that's been so cohesive in a massive event from Marvel or DC, I think, since. So I look forward to one that wants to top it, but for right now, in terms of big, epic event, we got to give it to Blackest Night. Next is going to go to Silver Surfer Requiem. If you want something with Alex Ross-esque art in there, as well as just a beautiful story, this might be it. This is a pretty standalone issue outside of whatever was going on with Marvel at the time. And the entire issue, it starts off, Silver Surfer is dying. So it's a heavy, heavy one. And it just follows him around as he meets with Fantastic Four. He meets with Doctor Strange. He meets with Peter Parker. And he wants to ask and finally get his questions about Earth and humanity answered. He's trying against a clock to discover the rest of humanity. And I think he learns it in the issue. It's also really cool to see Galactus appear in the issue as a sort of respectful, enemy but friend sort of thing. You don't see Galactus in that light ever, so it's really crazy to see him seemingly care for, well, not even seemingly, outright care for Silver Surfer in that way. It's really cool. It's a really touching issue. Once again, you're noticing a trend here. I like the stuff that really touches your heart. Silver Surfer Requiem, definitely. Batman Red Rain, I love this for a completely different reason. Technically, Batman Red Rain is the name of the first book of the 3, but you're going to want to grab all 3, which is just called like Batman Vampire. Probably the single greatest Elseworlds story, which is meaning a non-canon event. Obviously, Batman, hunting down Dracula and later even becoming a vampire himself is not going to be canon. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. You got to just enjoy it. It's got that beautiful, pretty early on Kelly Jones artwork in there. It's just a blast. But it's the attention to detail and how much they got right about actual Dracula lore. They could have phoned this one in. They could have just absolutely made it just a quick buck. But they went so hard that they made one of the most airtight vampire stories in any medium ever, and it just happens to be a Batman book. So weird, but you know what? Don't fight it. Make sure you read that one, Batman Vampire. Next is going to be Planetary by Warren Ellis. This is a funny one because I love the Planetary Batman one-shot. So I read that years ago, and I thought it was this amazing thing with amazing art. But I didn't know who Planetary was. I have since dove in, and I've found that Warren Ellis is amazing. So honestly, most of Warren Ellis could have been on this list. He's just that dude. But Planetary reads like the best TV show that doesn't exist. Kind of gives you like a little bit of like Star Trek-y vibes, meets like X-Files. It's the epitome of what you would want in a drama series. It's very episodic. I think there's 27 or 30 comics in there, all collected in an omnibus, which I recommend you get because it's great from beginning to end. And it does a really good job of taking you into these characters and being a love letter to a lot of Marvel and DC comic tropes. There are nods to Thor. There are nods to Batman. There are just outright mentions and showings of Batman. This is an amazing series. It's so unpredictable and it's just so fresh. So many comics out there, I think, are so great. They start out perfect and can't stick the landing. This one sticks the landing. It's absolutely fresh. My God, it's great. Next one's going to be Ostrander's Spectre. So this is one that is frustratingly not collected in any omnibus. So you actually have to either try to read it online or there's some out-of-print trade paperbacks and stuff. Kind of annoying for a run that's so great. And if you do a quick Google search, you'll find that it's unanimously declared an amazing run. A lot of people consider it to be Ostrander's best work, and yet no omnibus. It's ridiculous, but whatever. This one's absolutely amazing from the art to the story. Much like Planetary, it's actually very episodic. There are specific arcs that stand out. It also deals with a lot of contemporary issues. There's a big thing in there because it's the 90s about AIDS. It's just awesome. And you don't need to know who the Spectre is going in. Ostrander holds your hand and also frickin' punches you in the face with everything he does in here. It's amazing, and also spiritually and theologically, this is a fun one, man. Next is going to be Ultimate Spider-Man. This one is on here just for good old-fashioned comic book fun. I'm actually not a big coming-of-age type of guy. That's probably my least favorite genre. This one does it the best, though. It is a writer and an artist, Bagley and Bendis, came together and just absolutely crushed all the way to the end. Bagley did drop out near the end, but for the most part, you know how hard it is to get consistent art and consistent storytelling from start to end. Pretty crazy. And it is gold. This is easily my come and reread every year series, even though it is pretty fast at this point. There's a lot of issues in there. I really like the ultimate versions of all these characters, and they just wanted to just do a nice clean slate and reset and give you a nice clean story with no outside gunk, and they actually managed to do that. So you're left with a story that you can read 100 issues of it without getting bogged down with excessive crap. It's extremely streamlined, it's extremely accessible, and it just understands Peter Parker to a degree that I think still hasn't been matched, maybe even in movies. This thing is perfect Spider-Man. Next one, and second to last, is going to go to Murder Falcon. I forgot about this until I was doing this list, and I was like, oh yeah, that book was perfect. Super easy to read. I think there's like 6 issues. You can crush this no problem. Collected in trade paperback, of course. If you like the whole Brutal Legends and Sunset Overdrive video games, this is a comic book for you. It's that. It's literally just heavy metal being summoned to fight giant monsters. That's awesome. And you know what? It could have been stupid, and they didn't. It actually is quite touching at times, very funny at times, and just really quite a spectacle overall. I was really impressed with it, and I really liked the ending. Most books out there, I think, don't stick the endings when it comes to comics, and since this one did, wow, it just really sticks with you, and you're left with a, how did they make a heavy metal comic book so good? Last but not least, I'm going to give it to Walking Dead. The biggest problem with Walking Dead is probably how to get physical copies of everything, you know what I mean? That's going to be probably your biggest challenge. I actually do have the hardcover omnibuses, which were not cheap, especially since Robert Kirkman signed a couple of them. Now, I was a fanboy to the last. I made it to like season 9. I defended this show long after it lost respect for its viewers, and you know what? I actually never even saw the ending, which is funny because it was my favorite TV show. So I watched the show before the comic, and I always thought it would mess with me. But turns out I did go ahead last summer. I sat there, and for an entire week, I crushed all of it. And it looks like the comic books was the better version of everything, I have to say. There were liberties that the show took that I thought really hurt the storyline. So I do think the absolute winner goes to the comics here. And when you have a story with characters that come and go so much so that you know are going to die, it's amazing how well you can get attached to them. The Walking Dead is a true spectacle, and even though the show got a little stupid in the end and is overstaying its welcome with its tie-ins and spin-offs, the comic books, man, really were something. Holy crap. From beginning to end, it was really amazing. I have been trying to carve some time to read it again. If you haven't watched the show, or if you didn't like the show, don't worry about any of that. The comic is amazing. It's on my top 10 list. I actually consider it to be a perfect work of art, so wow. Gotta read The Walking Dead. Alright, and before you go, I said I would give you 5 single comic book issues that I actually think are perfect. Here we go. Swamp Thing 56. Gotta read that Alan Moore goodness. Swamp Thing Winter Special, Tom King. Batman Adventures, Mad Love. Hawkeye 11, Pizza is My Business. And Will You Be My God, which is actually a tie-in book to the Dark Side War. Crazy that a tie-in book is so high on my list, but there it is. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I'll see you at the next one. Keep on hunting.
Make sure to come on down to Sentiment Depot's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 238 West Delaware Ave in Pennington, New Jersey. Find so many great books for just $1 and the lowest prices on key comics around. Enjoy a huge selection of graded comics priced up to 20% lower than current fair market value. We are open from Wednesday to Sunday, closed Monday, Tuesday. You got a collection you want to sell? Bring that too. Can't wait to see you there.